The Ugly Duckling. It was summer, and all the fields and the meadows were green, and flowers grew close to the river bank where a mother duck was sitting in her nest. Mother Duck had been sitting on her eggs now for quite a long time, and she was growing very tired of it. "Oh, how much longer must I sit?" she asked herself again and again. Just at that moment, one of her oldest friends from down at the farmyard came up to visit her. "Quack, quack!" she exclaimed, when Mother Duck showed her the eggs. "Why, you have a monster egg in that nest, I do say! It looks more like a turkey egg. Why," she went on, peering closely at the egg, "it is twice as big as any of the others." After her friend had gone, Mother Duck went back to the nest, and to her great delight the eggs began to crack, one by one, and she was soon the proud mother of 6 pretty yellow ducklings. "My, what a splendid lot!" Mother Duck said aloud. "Aren't you all just perfect and full of high spirits, just like me when I was a young girl? I will have to think of really pretty names to give all of you." Well, now there was only the big monster egg left in the nest. When it finally cracked open, Mother Duck was very upset. "Quack, quack, quack!" she cried at the sight of her youngest. "Oh, he can't be mine. He's far too big, and he's far too ugly." Well, the youngest of her ducklings was so big, and really quite so ugly compared to his brothers and sisters, that the poor Mother Duck just bowed her head in shame as he stood there before her. The next day Mother Duck set off for the river, and soon all of her babies were swimming well after her, and she could not help feeling pleased and proud. And to her great surprise, the ugly duckling proved to be the most excellent swimmer. "Why, he is more at home in the water than his brothers and sisters," Mother Duck told herself as she watched. After their swim, Mother Duck took the path to the farmyard with her children coming straight behind her. "Why, you must all be on your best behavior," she warned them when the farm came close in sight. "I am taking you to meet the Dowager Duck. She is the most important person in the farmyard, and she will soon make up her mind about all of you." However, the visit was not a success. "I cannot congratulate you," said the Dowager Duck to her Mother Duck. "6 of your little ones are pretty enough, but that strange ugly one has no place." "Oh, I agree with you, Dowager," gobbled the fiery turkey cockerel, deciding to take part in this conversation. "Never set eyes on such an odd creature before." When she heard this, one of the hens aimed a very nasty peck right at the duckling, and from that moment the ugly duckling led a miserable life. The milkmaid of the farmyard usually tried to kick him whenever she passed, and the hens of the farmyard just chased him around and tried to peck him. Even his brothers and sisters made fun of him. Well, the ugly duckling was so lonely and so unhappy that he made up his mind to run away. "Nobody will miss me," he told himself sadly as he left the farmyard gates early one morning. He could not walk or fly very fast, but somehow he reached the great marsh. The marsh was where the wild ducks lived, and soon one of them flew down to greet him. "Here, where do you come from?" the wild duck demanded. "You are very ugly." Well, the ugly duckling had hoped that these wild ducks would let him stay with them, but one day, as he watched them fly over the marsh, there was a loud bang, and one of them dropped from the sky, soon after which a big brown hairy dog splashed through the marshy water toward him with his mouth open, and the ugly duckling went stiff with fright. The big dog did not harm him, but the duckling knew that he could never make the marsh his home. "I'll go now," he decided. And when it began to get dark, the little duckling knew that he couldn't go much further. In the moonlight, just above, he saw a little house that looked so inviting that he began to think about food and shelter for the night. "I might even be allowed to stay," he thought, as he went up to the little green door. An old woman with a hen on her shoulder and a cat at her side opened the door and invited him inside. "You are welcome to stay as long as you like," she said kindly, "so long as you lay an egg for me every day." Well, her kind words made the duckling very happy. But the old woman was only pretending to like the ugly duckling, and when she found that he could not lay eggs, she shouted at him and chased him with her broom. Her cat teased him and her hen pecked him. One day the cat hissed at him, "Stupid ugly creature, go away!" And the hen clucked, "Why don't you leave us? We don't want you here." By now the duckling was so miserable that the very next morning he slipped away. There was no one to say goodbye to the ugly duckling, or to wish him luck. He felt so sad and lonely that he wished he could die. That day he rested very little, until at last he came to a pond. As soon as he saw in the water, he swam and dived and began to feel less lonely. He liked the water. "I shall stay here for ever and ever," he told himself. But soon the nights grew cold, and the leaves on the trees changed to brown and yellow and dropped to the hard earth. Just before the first snowflakes fell, the duckling looked up into the grey and wintry cold sky, and he saw something beautiful. Some beautiful white birds with long, graceful necks were flying high overhead. "Oh, wow, how beautiful they are!" the ugly duckling cried. "Oh, if only I could look like they do!" But the duckling could not forget those beautiful birds, not even when the icy wind began to freeze the water. Up and down he swam across the pond, but the ice closed in all around him, and one morning he found that he was trapped in the ice and could not move. He would have died for sure if had a farmer not come by the pond. "Poor little chap," he said, "I can't leave you here to die." And he broke the ice with his stout foot. Already half dead, the poor duck had no strength to struggle through, for he was very frightened. "There," said the man in a kindly voice, "I'll carry you home under my jacket. It will shelter you from this bitter wind and keep you warm." The farmer was a poor man, but he was certain his wife would take care of the duckling until it grew stronger. As soon as he got home, he called to his wife, and she took hold of the duckling and held him most gently. "Of course we'll keep him," she said. "He can stay in the farmhouse until he is strong enough to fly." "But what about the children?" her husband asked. "Will they be kind to him, I wonder?" Unfortunately, the children were not kind to the poor little duckling. They tried to play a game with him, chasing him round and round the big farm kitchen. Well, the ugly duckling was so scared that he flew into the milk churn, upsetting the milk all over the floor. "Leave him to me!" shrieked the girl. "I'll catch him!" shouted the boy. Well, their mother was so furious by now that she tried to grab hold of the duckling too. Terrified, he went crashing into the butter churn. At this, the children just laughed louder than ever. But the poor, frightened duckling was so dazed that he barely knew what was going on. The terrified duckling was almost caught by the boy as he made a frantic dash through the half-open kitchen door. When he found himself outside, he used his remaining strength to escape across the snow-covered field. Somehow or other, he managed to live through the long, hard winter, making use of whatever shelter he could find. One morning, in the warm spring sunshine, the ugly duckling felt a new strength in his wings. "Now I really can go into the wide, wide world," he told himself as he rose up into the air and flew away over the moor. After a bit of time, he came down to rest in a pretty scented garden with beautiful coloured flowers around. And there, on the lake, were some beautiful white swans. The ugly duckling was filled with joy at the sight of them, for he remembered seeing them flying overhead. "Why, even if they kill me because I'm so ugly," he thought, "I just want to go and talk to them. And what does it matter anyway?" And so he flew on to the lake, and he swam across to the beautiful, stately birds. "Kill me if you must," cried the poor duckling, bending his head low. But something strange and rather wonderful happened then. The ugly duckling looked down with his bowed head and saw himself reflecting in the clear water below. And guess what? He was no longer that ugly grey bird that everybody hated. Instead, he was a graceful white swan. Just then, 2 little children came to the lake to feed the swans. They had with them a bag of bread, and they threw that bread in chunks into the water. And the little girl cried, "Look, a new swan! And isn't he the youngest but most beautiful swan of all?" And that is the end of the story, and time to say good night.